Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Sundar Vedantam. Just talking to our own team members who are fairly new to the company. There are a lot of little details related to the total rewards, particularly like stock options, RSUs and ESPP kind of plans. And there are ways to make more returns out of what Intel is already providing you. So thought I'll just walk you all through whatever I have gathered over the last, couple of decades, right? In the agenda, I wanted to talk about like 4 or 5 main topics. One is overall financial planning. Then we'll narrow down to 401k contributions specifically, what happens, what you should do, etc. ESPP and RSU, what comes in, what goes out, what do you need to do. Within that, want to touch upon options trading. This is something most people are not familiar with. Originally, I thought I'll probably focus just on this one area. I mean, you can teach classes and write PhD thesis on options trading alone, but it gets too complicated too soon. So my goal is to at least expose the team members to these notions, so you are aware, okay, you can do this, and then you can go explore and do some more, right? And then even charitable donations. So we'll talk about that towards the end briefly. So each one of this area, if you do things right, compared to what Intel is giving you, you can amplify it more, right? And of course, right off the bat, I should say I'm not like a financial expert, and nobody asked me to teach this as a course, nothing like that, right? So individual situations, etc., will vary. So take it with a pinch of salt or a bucket of salt, whatever that you prefer, right? So I'm not trying to promote any one particular product, not getting paid by anyone, nothing, right? So these are just general ideas that I think would be useful in the long run for you to be aware of and put it to good use. So the first thing, of course, the requirements and the individual situations will vary, right? So you may be new to the company, and so you may have like a big student loan, or you may want to buy a home, car, something, and so you may not be able to save a lot. You want to put a lot of money here, this and that. So many things that I'm saying you may not be able to do today, but as I was saying before, the idea is to at least get these ideas in your mind. So as you grow older in age, in family life, in the company, you can put these to better usage. I often talk to friends of my own age. People at some point, maybe they are interested in doing XYZ, and then just life takes its own course, and then they don't really pay attention, and so they don't invest properly, or the money is just sitting in some checking account earning 0.1% interest and things like that, right? That's not good. So you should pay attention and like take care of it. One thing that I consistently try to do is not to make my life too complex. So if you really try to do something like, I'm going to get this software, I'm going to check every one of my transaction every day 3 times, it never works after a week or 2, right? So I can't keep it up. So I generally try to keep the amount of work that I need to do to a minimum, but kind of stick to it over a long period of time, so it starts to yield some results, right? So the first thing I encourage people to do is to create a simple spreadsheet. When you originally start, it would look like, this is so trivial, do I even need a spreadsheet for this one, right? But as time passes, you would really see the importance of that growing. So I have a spreadsheet that's about 25 to 30 years old, right? So I update it maybe once in 2 months. So it's not a lot of work. And when I update, it takes maybe 5 minutes. So again, it's not a lot of work. But now it contains some 20 plus years worth of data. So I can quickly go back and look something. So it's like really has a lot of useful voluminous information that's pertinent to me and my setup, right? So create a spreadsheet, start one. So the things that you should gather in that is number one, your net worth, right? This is what money you have in your bank, what you have in your 401k, what you have in your, maybe you may have a nice car, but if you sell it, what's the money that you will get, right? And maybe you have some CD or some credit card debt. Just consolidate all that. So at any point in time, you generally know what your worth is, right? So that gives you a starting point. It gives you an idea of where you are. Of course, if you have a whatever $500,000 house and you have $400,000 on mortgage on it, then you should put only $100,000 in this, right? Because that's your net worth. If you because the other 400,000 of the house is owned by the bank, right? So don't put that as your possession, right? And in fact, you should even put something less, because if you sell the house, some 6% is going to go away in commission, right? So if you have a $500,000 worth of house and you have only 100,000 in it, if you're selling it, you're going to get probably something less than that. You're going to get 94K or something like that. Right? So you should just put that 94K. The idea is just know what you actually own, right? That's one. And then generally get an idea of your monthly expense, right? Again, a lot of people initially go overboard and then they start writing down like, okay, I spend $2 in coffee, this and that. They do that for a couple of weeks and then they no longer keep it up, right? I don't do that. So I know my monthly credit card bill or electricity bill, what my mortgage is. So just have a general idea. You'd be surprised to know how many people don't have this these things even done, right? And of course, some expenses may be once a year, so you can put that in a separate bucket. Just get an idea of how much cash burn rate you have on a monthly basis, right? Track your AGI, that's adjusted gross income. So whenever you file tax return, at the end of the year, I just, whatever is in my tax return, I just write it down. So I know generally where I am, how things are growing. And so it's again, you can imagine this is one bullet, right? But when you file tax return, it's one number, just write it down. So you might even think, what the hell, I mean, why should I keep a spreadsheet for this one? 25 years later, you'll see a nice collection of data, then it would make a lot more sense. Right? Similarly, keep track of trades. So whenever we get, let's say, some RSU that vests and then you sell it, or like you start doing some stock trading, things like that. Usually, if you stick to just one company, that company would maintain that information for you. And so during tax filing or anything, you would be able to get that information from the company from statements. But sometime you would end up transferring from one company to another, then you will no longer have that information. So again, when you do trading, I mean, we are all not doing like 10 trades a day, right? So it's maybe once in a while. So when you do it, just put it down like one line of information in the spreadsheet. So over time, it again becomes a nice idea. So I generally keep track of what is the stock symbol, what's the company name, what is the price I paid per stock, how many I bought, what is the total price, what's the commission I paid, right? And then I have separate columns. Whenever I sell it, what's the selling price, what did I get, that kind of detail. Maybe some note saying, oh, this is the reason I sold, etc. Right? So it's not too complex. It has maybe 12 columns or something like that. But when you do one transaction, it will take you 5 minutes to just fill it up. It's not big, right? But later on, 5 years down the line, when did I sell that? It becomes really easy to track it down from this one spreadsheet. Keep the number of accounts to less than 10. This is a routine thing most financial services and analysts will tell you. You're all young right now, so you may just have started with Intel. You have one E-Trade account and one Fidelity account. Maybe that's it, one bank account. But over time, Intel itself may switch from one service company to another. Previously, we used to have UBS as our stock trading company. Then now it's become E-Trade, right? Which is good. E-Trade actually charges less fees and things like that, so that's fantastic. But over a period, you may move from point A to B, you may open a new bank account, this and that, and then particularly if you switch employers, I hope none of you do, you all retired from Intel, but if you do, you will end up leaving the 401k kind of money in one account in one company, and then you move to another one. Now that is just sitting there, nobody is really monitoring it that much, right? And so you may want to like move that over, consolidate in one place. So it's usually the human brain in general is capable of managing about 7 things, keeping track of 7 items in general. But if you have 23 accounts, you will probably never pay attention to a bunch of them, right? So there may be money just sitting there. You invested in some fund long time back, and the fund really went down. You never paid attention. Then that's bad, right? So it's good to roll it all over and keep it in a few accounts. Not necessarily just one account. You still need stability for 401k, stock trading, E-Trade, right? And then you have a couple of bank accounts, maybe a mortgage account, something. But something less than 10 is reasonable. You have a clearer idea of where you are, what you're doing.
Like the amount of credit cards that you have.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would say it's good to have maybe some variety, right? Because sometimes Visa may be giving some advantage, specialty, some reward award, something that we may want to get exposed to. So it doesn't make sense to have 7 Visa credit cards, right? So I generally have 1 Visa, 1 MasterCard, and then 1 American Express and Discover, and that's about it. I mean, of course, my ATM cards could be used as credit cards, but it's more like debit cards, right? I just have like 3-4 credit cards, and that's it. I think that's usually good enough. No point keeping 23 credit cards, right? I never open like store cards one after another. Sometimes, of course, there are advantages. If you buy something from one store all the time, maybe they give you some advantages and they keep track of all your stuff. Returning is easy, etc. I understand. But generally try not to have like 50, right? 4, 5, 6, 7 is kind of good enough. Then maintain adequate life insurance is one thing. Depending upon your family situation, etc., these are things you should maybe look into once in 5 years or so, right? When you are single, okay, again, I hope you all live to be 100, but if I'm single, if I die, okay, there's not much to worry about, so it's okay. But when you have a spouse or maybe you have family, etc., particularly when you have kids, there are equations and ideas to figure out how much insurance you should have, right? So there are 2 components to insurance, 2 types to insurance. One is a whole life insurance. One is a term life insurance, right? Term life insurance is just like your car insurance. So every month you pay some money, and if something happens, you get coverage. If something doesn't happen, that money is gone and the end, right? So as a result, term life insurance is cheaper. So you, for, I don't know, $50, you'll get $500,000 coverage or something like that, right? But you usually get it for n number of years. When you are young, it's better to get the insurance sooner. You can get, let's say, 20 years of term life insurance, and every month you pay $50, and then you have whatever $500,000 coverage for 20 years, right? If you stop paying, you lose the coverage. But the money is usually very low. You can pay, and then you'll have coverage. So even after 10, 15 years, suddenly if you die, then okay, there is $500,000 somebody gets, right? So that's one kind of insurance. Then there is whole life insurance, where the amount of money you pay is a lot more. Okay. But it's not, even if you don't die, in the end of the term, you always get that money back with interest, right? So that's a form of savings, right? So instead of $50, it may be $5,000 per year, right? But you get coverage for 20 years. So at the end of the 20th year or whatever, 30th year, you can get it as long as you want. You will get that $500,000 given back to you. So you might have invested, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that, but there is like a lot of interest accrued, and then you get money back. It's guaranteed whether you die or not, right? So that's a good thing about whole life. There are many of these different people will have different approach and different views to this. So someone would say, the interest I get from that whole life insurance is so little, I can do fantastic things by investing that money in real estate or anything else, right? In stock, I'll make a lot more money. Why should I do that? Okay, I mean, that's your view. That's perfectly okay. Then at least get term life insurance. The idea here is whole life is to basically you want to save some money and also get coverage, right? So if you invest a bunch of money in real estate, next year if I die, I'm not going to get anything from it, whereas the insurance gives you that coverage. So you are paying, maybe giving up some money you could have potentially made because you are getting the coverage, right? So it's designed. And the way the people encourage you to structure it is, if whatever your age is, assume you are going to retire at 65, right? So if you are 40, there is 25 years of your working life. So for that 25 years, get term life, right? That's because it's a quick replacement for the money you would have potentially made that you're not making if you die, right? So your family has the same amount of money coming in until you would have retired, right? Whereas the whole life is your general saving, right? So even when you become 60, 70, whatever, then you're still going to get that money back. So think of that as like general savings with coverage, whereas term life is replacement for the income that would potentially be lost if you die, right? That's the way to see that. So, okay, yeah, that's a good question. Intel itself doesn't say, okay, you go buy this or something like that. Automatically, they give 2x or 3x of your salary as a standard insurance, right? So let's say your income is 100K, then it's like 2x or 3x, I forgot what it is. That's 2x, yeah. So it's 2x. So we automatically get $200,000 worth of coverage. Okay, that's good. But it's 200,000. So imagine potentially if you don't have any other kind of insurance. Initially, it may sound like a lot of money, but if let's say I'm 50 something, but let's say I'm going to retire only at 65, I'm getting only 200,000. I actually lost 15 years. I mean, my family lost 15 years worth of income, right? So you should potentially have something like $600,000 so that they can get the money, put it in bank, so they'll continue to get this reasonable amount of income coming through until I would have earned and retired, right? So basically, think of term life as compensation for the money that you are no longer earning. Whole life is another form of savings. So whatever you are comfortable with, you may want to do whole life. And then for the remaining stuff, at least get term life. So you have, your family will have just about the same amount of money coming in, whether you are here or not. And I mean, there are individual companies, MetLife or something like that, like you can go and get these kinds of insurance. And
you can also add the insult.
Yeah, right? You're right.
You can do 3x or 4x within that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by default, it's 2x. But like Jay said, during the annual election, you can change it to 3x, 4x, 5x, whatever, right? And then they detect more money from your paycheck, and you automatically get that coverage, right? And of course, then that is actually tied to your Intel employment. So at some point, if you decide to leave, go somewhere else, then this gets disconnected. So you need to set it up fresh there, right? So if you don't want that, you want something consistent outside, then you can go do it with other standard insurance company. On the other hand, if you do it through Intel, you just change it to whatever X that you want, and you are willing to pay money, and you are immediately covered. If you go outside, usually you need to go through some medical checkup. They'll do blood work and things like that to make sure you are not an unnecessary risk Therefore, they don't want somebody who know they are going to die in 6 months taking $1 million insurance and things like that, right? I mean, it's reasonable. So you do need to go through some testing. Plus, as you grow older, these insurance rates will keep going up. So it's better to get a big, nice, long coverage permanently. So if you keep switching jobs, when you are in 50, you try to get the same coverage, you will be paying a lot more money. So if you really want that, you sign up for it when you are in your 20s, the rates will be low and you are covered till you are.
But the life insurance that you are referring to here,
yeah,
is it more associated to maybe when you are traveling or maybe die on duty?
Yeah.
But if you just sleep in your house and you lose your life, will the insurance cover for that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a separate accidental insurance that Intel provides, but exactly. There is a basic life insurance, like they said it, I think it's 2x, 2 times your salary. That doesn't matter. Weekend, you are on vacation, whatever, you are still covered. Write a will. This is something I keep telling my friends all the time. Most people say, yeah, I should do that, and nobody does it. Right? Or like most people don't do it. You often think, hey, I'm in my 20s, why should I write a will? And that's all for old people or something. But to write a will, you don't need to go to a lawyer. You don't need to go to a court. Nothing. If you just take a standard template, if any of you want, I give you my template. Just fill in your name, write whatever you want, sign, it becomes a will. If you can get it notarized, it's better. That's it. I mean, you just keep it, give it to your whoever you think will like take care of your quote-unquote estate, right? That's the money that you leave behind. That's it. That's a will. So it can be done in half an hour, right? And if that document is there, it makes life really easy, or like with respect to handling your business, if we unfortunately happen to be not here, right? Otherwise, it becomes extremely complex. Even simple things like you didn't put your wife's name in your 401k or something like that, right? So it gets really complex. You need to go around proving who they are and things like that. But if there is a will, a lot of these things becomes much easier. Do it. Takes like half an hour to do one simple will.
Sundar,
yeah.
I think we have talked about this before, but the issue of you don't need to involve a lawyer. I keep on having a question on that.
Yeah.
Because when we say a will, is a will not, I think the definition is a legal document. It should be a legal document. Therefore, if it will be a legal document, there should be some maybe legal approval to it.
I mean, if you have a notary sign your will, the notary, of course, is not really reading what you've written or anything, right? They are just signing to confirm that you are the person who signed the will. That's all they are vouching for, right? As long as you have a notary signature, that's it. That's a legal will. You can go read up on the internet, Pennsylvania law, anything that you like. Right? And of course, there are additional things. If you go to a lawyer, maybe they'll charge you a bunch of money and make it watertight, and they'll make sure X and Y classes are all covered and so forth. You can do that. Nobody says you shouldn't. But usually people think, oh, I need to go to a lawyer, sit down, pay a bunch of money, and if something changes, it becomes even more complex for me to change and so forth. So I keep saying, do the basic one over a weekend, right? Not even a weekend. It takes like couple of hours to write one. If you just take a template and change names and fill stuff in. And if you have time, I mean, you can always go to a lawyer, but at least have something written down.
So if you don't have any beneficiary or anyone in our 401k or any of our accounts or anything, and if something were to happen to us, God forbid, then would it just go to the government here? What is the
there are like steps and procedures. So for example, if there is nothing ever specified anywhere, then it becomes government's responsibility. So somebody, the court-appointed person, would take up, and maybe whoever, just to take your case, if you're not married, maybe your parents or siblings can then file saying, hey, we should get that money. Then they'll say, prove it, right? So then you go through all these steps and procedures. If you just write it down, okay, it makes life really simple, right? So I have written my will, my wife has written one, we have given both to my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, then we have theirs and it's done, right? So anything happens, it's all ready to go. Right? One thing, over a period of life, you would see at some point maybe you need a financial advisor, and Intel kind of companies will also bring in some people like American Express or Fidelity or MetLife. Some people will come in, they'll offer free consultation because eventually they get our business to manage their finances, right? Which is all good. Some people like that, do it, but it's supposed to be a good idea to see if they are fiduciarily responsible financial advisor. That's a specific term. If that term applies to a financial advisor, she has their first loyalty to you, right? So they need to give you the right kind of advice. If that's not there, I mean, anybody can just go claim themselves as financial advisors, right? So often it will be confusing. There is no one specific degree or some certification. I mean, there are a lot of certifications, but for someone to call themselves a financial advisor, there is no major requirement. Anybody can just call themselves a financial advisor. I can call myself. But most of the time, they'll get commission from, let's say, a particular fund company, a mutual fund, some services company, right? So they would want to sell that particular product or service or something to you because they get commission for that one. Whereas if the person is a fiduciary responsibility financial advisor, then their first loyalty to you. They are by law, legally, they are not allowed to push something to you if that's not to your advantage, kind of thing. So look for that term if you are ever looking for a financial advisor.
It was almost going to be a law, I think, this year that they had to be a fiduciary, but I think that got rejected.
Yeah, that's right. So, in general, again, you're all young, so at this point, this may not look like a serious thing, but if you sign up with a serious financial advisor, they would end up taking a lot of money for their services. Okay, so for example, they'll take 1% of your total worth. So if you have $100,000, they'll be taking $1,000 a year as their fee to start with. Sometimes they'll charge something more, whatever extra money you made, they'll take a cut from that one and so forth. Even if you lose money by letting them manage your finances, they still take 1% cut from your total portfolio worth, right? So there are software options that have started coming in. A lot of people don't want to pay that much money for financial advisors. So there are things like Betterment, Personal Capital. These are all basically software that does money management for you. Most of these accounts are free. Not recommending or promoting anyone. You can just research and find what you like. So you can sign up, then possibly you can let them give them access to your login ID, password for your account, so they can go analyze and see what your distribution is, how things are set up, is it right or wrong, etc. Then the software will make recommendations saying, compared to what your goal is, what your age is, right? This is how ideally, with your preference, you want the distribution to be. So I mean, just to give an example, you say, oh, I'm really young, I have another 40 years of life, right? So I want to aggressively invest wherever there are going to be a lot of money coming back and potential return is really high, right? That means you should be keeping a lot of money in stocks and very little in bonds and things like that. That doesn't give you a lot of return. Safe investment, very low return, right? Stocks, high volatility, but you potentially can get this thing. But you might have invested in some fund without realizing what its split and distribution is, right? So these kinds of software, Betterment, Personal Capital, can go analyze saying, hey, this is your age. You say you really want to be aggressively investing, but we see most of your cash is sitting in a checking account, not earning money, or it's in a bond that is giving you 1% return every year. It should be rebalanced with your portfolio having a lot more domestic stock, right? It doesn't mean that you go and buy stocks per se, but at least invest in some mutual fund that is predominantly stocks rather than bonds, right? That kind of thing. So it will tell you that otherwise you may not realize, oh, I think I'm investing aggressively for part of growth, but in reality it's just sitting on some fund that is, you might have picked a fund because last year it had a fantastic return, but it could be because last year was a recession year and the bonds had high yield and stocks didn't do well, so you chose that. But for 40 years, that's not the fund you should be in, right? You may not realize that if you do this kind of analysis.
Now you talk of releasing your login credentials for them to analyze your accounts. Is any law backing that kind of transaction, having in mind the identity concern and others?
All these definitely have its own risks, right? So you never know. I mean, each one of these companies like Betterment, Personal Capital, they say, oh, we use 512-bit encryption, blah, 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 something, and then next month you realize, oh, their company got hacked, right? So, yeah, I mean, there is definitely risk. But again, as you grow older, you'll realize a lot of people, even within Intel on this floor, right, they actually have a personal financial advisor. They give their entire portfolio to them to manage because they no longer, I mean, the money has grown to some point, they don't understand what the risks are and they don't want to do anything. Right? So the financial advisor takes 1% money from them every year and then they invest it in whatever they think is all right. Right? Maybe once in 6 months they'll meet and they say, oh, it's all going well or something. And so people trust other advisors to that extent to give them all the money for them to run with it, right? It's the same thing. So you are, of course, trusting this company to give it. I tried, but I don't permanently leave it because I can always give the login ID password, get the assessment, see how the distribution is. Not only it's balancing the distribution. There could be things like how much fee are you paying? That's a big factor people don't pay attention to, right? You may be buying a particular mutual fund thinking that that's very good, but that fund may have a large amount of fee. So every year, if your return is 7% and the fee is 2%, you end up getting only 5%, right? So that happens all the time. So these software can go analyze all your investment and then come back and tell you per year you are paying $7,000 in fee, something like that, right? Then you think, I shouldn't do that everywhere. I want to get that 7,000. What do I do? Maybe I can go invest in some index fund because index funds usually track an index. As a result, there is not a lot of management to be done. So their management fee tends to be really, really low. Right? So it could be any of these. How much money you are paying? Are you invested in the right portfolio? Is your balance okay for your age and investment objectives and things like that, right? So the thing is, you can get the feedback from the software analysis. Next day, you can go and change all your passwords, so you basically block them, right? But the model that they are trying to promote is they will continue to manage it, and if you pay money, they'll even rebalance it for you routinely. Many of them want to get you in first, so they don't charge anything just to give the analysis and tell you what could be done, right? So it's up to you. And of course, anything and everything has risks, right? So none of this is totally risk-free. But if you don't do anything, just keep your money in your checking account forever, you are effectively losing money due to inflation. So you have to take some risk somewhere. Okay.
Anybody act on keeping track of things?
Yes.
Do you know whether some of these apps you can have on your phone are any good? I know I downloaded Mint. I don't know if anybody's
I know Mint. Yeah. I think Mint also got bought by Betterment or something like that, but I could be wrong. Yeah. Again, I am quite skeptical, so I don't like to give all my passwords to thing. So I signed up with Betterment just to get an idea. I'm always curious. I want to learn what's going on in the world, kind of thing. So I signed up with Betterment. I gave all the password just to see what it does, right? So it went and it did a nice analysis, showed me how much I am paying in fee and so forth. They have a mobile app, so you can monitor, and they will actually keep checking and then keep telling you on a daily basis, weekly basis, whenever you want. There is so much cash sitting idle, it should be invested here, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. You can pay a little bit of money. I mean, when I said the financial advisors take 1%, right? Please take 0.25% or some substantially less because it's software driven. And they do have actual human beings you can talk to as well. Okay, so if you want more service, some better management, something that's allowed. So they have mobile apps, they have anything that you want, right? Budgeting, management, rebalancing, portfolio, etc. I played with it for a while. I got a good idea. I know what it is. Then Betterment has an option to completely close the account. So the login ID is no longer valid. Of course, I changed all my passwords so they can't log in. And then I closed my account altogether. And I was experimenting with personal capital to see, okay, how does it compare? What do they do with? I closed that also out, right? So I don't really feel comfortable giving somebody all my password and trusting them, either it's software or a real financial advisor. I have spoken to maybe 3 different financial advisors at different points. Not to sound snobbish, but the questions that I was asking, they were not answering me right. And so I didn't really think they would do a much better job of managing my finances than what I am doing. So I never signed up with any of them. So, but again, there are people on this floor who said, hey, I don't like dealing with that stuff. And so rather than letting it just sit in my bank account because I don't want to do this and I feel irritated to go handle that all the time, I'm better off paying 1% fee and somebody actually managing it for me, right? It's different preferences and what you want to do. Okay, this most of you may know. So we have this 401k contribution thing, right? So, wow, it's only 3:42. Okay, I have like another hour worth of material. Sorry. So the 401k contribution, I would say maximize it if possible, right? Again, many of the things may not be applicable to everyone. So if you have some expenses coming and you want to do less, that's fine. But I often hear people saying, younger people, retirement is 40 years away. Why do I save now, right? If you go into any financial models that talks about contributing something steady continuously for 40 years versus 30 years, your end result is going to be substantially different, right? You may like lose out $1 million instead of 2 million, you'll end up with 1 million because you started 10 years later, right? So, I mean, there are a lot of calculators and tools that you can go and work out. So it's better to start saving early because the cumulative return over a long period is phenomenally more than you hitting a lottery when you are 50 and then like having the same amount of money when you retire, right? So it's, maximize it if possible. And then, of course, Intel kind of companies, I really think Intel is really nice in many aspects. One of this is, I think whether you contribute to 401k or not, they still contribute, the employer contribution is still there, I think 5% every year, right? Most companies in the world, I mean in US, don't do that. They'll usually say if you contribute 2%, they'll contribute 1%. Right? If you do 4, they'll do 2. If you do 6, they'll do 3. And usually they'll cap somewhere there.
Starting in 2020,
you have to contribute, right? Yeah, okay, I think there was a, but there was also some easing up. It did, right? Instead of giving either some stock or something vesting, it's going to be every month. Actual funds will be deposited into your account.
If it's deposited, it'll be deposited right away rather than waiting until
okay. I remember that. Yeah. So if you simply don't contribute, right, when the employer requires you to contribute to get a match, right? If you simply don't do it, you are leaving 3% of your whatever income on the table, right? You're simply not doing it. So put it in. So it's immediately like a small pay rise kind of thing. You put 6%, they give 3%, whatever, 10%, they give 5%, something. Then it is basically to nudge employees to save, right? Otherwise, they'll put some money and then people think, my retirement is taken care of because my company is contributing something and I don't have to do anything. So please do that. And then paralysis due to too many options. This is a common phenomenon. Often, if you go in anywhere when there are 200 options, people get overwhelmed and then they don't do anything. They don't choose anything at all, right? I think Intel is not that bad. You may have 50 options or something like that, but people, when they originally sign up, there are a lot of options. Yeah, I'll come back and research this one day, and then they never do. Then the money just sits there and it's not accruing any value at all, right? So it's really, really important to do some simple choices and then invest. So two really simple options are, one is index funds, right? Choose any index that you believe will reasonably reflect the economy and it will grow, right? You can take Dow Jones Index, S&P 500, or if you think some particular sector, industry, something, like whatever you think is good, choose an index fund. The main advantage in index fund is it's managed by computers. There is no real person sitting there managing that fund, right? And so there is no huge fee involved in paying that manager for the fund itself. And so the expense ratio for index funds tend to be abysmally low. Usually be less than 0.1% or something like that, right? But if you take some extremely actively traded fund, say whatever, Asia is hot right now, and then there'll be some Asian technology fund, something. So there is a manager sitting there getting $1 million salary who's supposed to be researching all the Asian tech sector and then buying the right stock, selling it, etc. Whether that fund makes a lot of money or not, he has to be paid, right? And so there is a huge fee associated. It's not one person usually, it's like a crew. So all their expenses need to be paid. So there is a huge fee associated with it. If it's a Dow Jones fund, S&P 500 fund, there is nobody. It's one computer just running, buying that stock and rebalancing the portfolio. So the expense ratio is really, really low.
If you're looking at age-based portfolio, you don't pay any.
It's actually built into the fee itself. I mean, into the return itself usually, right? So that is the other one. I do invest in that. So the Fidelity Freedom XXXX means you basically choose in which year you are going to retire, right? So if you are, 20 now, you're going to retire after 40 years, right? So if the year now is 2020, you add 40 to it, it becomes 2060. So there'll be a fund called Fidelity Freedom 2060, right? So you just invest your money into that one. The idea there is, initially, when the time horizon for your retirement is too far away, they'll invest in potentially high return but high risk investments, meaning stocks, things like that, right? And as you grow older, as you near the retirement, they'll keep rebalancing the portfolio. So when you are like 5 years away from retirement, most of your money is in like bonds and very safe investment that's not going to oscillate much, right? Of course, when you move there, you are losing out the potential for getting a big return. On the other hand, 1 year before your retirement, you don't want a big change and half your money is gone. You don't want that, right? So they'll keep reducing the risk of volatility as you approach your retirement age. So it gets you to the safe harbor. And of course, even there, you can tune it a little bit. So for example, if I'm going to retire in 2030, right? Ideally, I should be choosing whatever Fidelity Freedom 2030 fund, right? But if I want to be a little bit aggressive, but I still want to use the Freedom Fund, I can choose Fidelity 2035, which will be a bit more aggressive, right? There is a potential risk like in 2029, there will be a huge recession and I'll lose the money, but I'm turning the knob a little bit to make it a bit more aggressive. You can choose whatever fund you want until it's not saying you should choose your retirement year or something. So pick the one that you are. The idea is you just pick your year of retirement and buy the fund and it's automatically rebalanced year after year. Right?
But the question I have is for the index fund, is it possible for individuals to maybe pick, okay, invest this certain amount out of my money into index fund, and this certain into the relative freedom. Can you split it?
Absolutely, yeah. In any percentage ratio you want, it's all up to you. Right? So you can put 50 here, 50 there. But remember, the idea of putting money in the Fidelity Freedom Fund kind of thing is it's automatically rebalancing the whole portfolio for you. If you are going and putting something else somewhere else, then your overall portfolio is no longer perfectly balanced, right? You are skewing it in one way, right? If that's what you want to do, yeah.
Therefore, I think I understand what you're trying to say, but is it advisable or is it allowed that you keep the Freedom Fund and you are putting extra money on index fund?
Yeah, I mean, you can, certainly. I mean, even how much you invest in your 401k is all up to you, right?
Exactly.
So you can not invest in anything at all. You may, like they said, next year you may start losing the match that you are supposed to get from Intel. That's really bad. Don't do that. But if you, as long as you invest what you should, at least to get all the money that you're supposed to get from Intel, that's good. But you can invest more and more and more. I think you can invest up to 50% of your income in 401k. Nobody is blocking you from that. But what kind of tax advantage that you will get, all that will stop at some point, right? So maybe I forgot, like $18,000 a year or something like that. Up to that, when you invest, you can actually take deduction from your tax filing. If you put $50,000 on it, you can put 50,000. Nobody is blocking you from it. Maybe it will accrue a lot of interest for which you are not paying tax year after year, right? That's all good, but you're not getting any tax benefit for that $32,000. Right? So at least do this, right? So pick some fund, and similarly designate a beneficiary. So even if you're not married, you don't have a spouse, anything, your father, mother, brother, sister, somebody, whomever you want, you should put that. A lot of people, I mean, this is a very common thing in US. People have a 401k account, they never mention the beneficiary. So they suddenly die, company doesn't know who gets the money, and there is no will, right? Do that. Understand, there are a lot of terms that would keep coming in. So dollar cost averaging is one thing, meaning anything that you take, could be a stock, could be a mutual fund, could be anything. It goes up, it comes down, or even if it's monotonically increasing, whatever happens, right? If you really try to time the market and then, it's going up, coming down, when it really comes down, I'm going to buy it here and then sell it here, it never really works that precisely, right? So compared to that, dollar cost averaging means just like what we are doing in 401k. So you keep putting some money every month, it automatically gets some particular fund is bought. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. So the dollar cost is averaging to some reasonable thing. Right? In general, the stock market returns like that would be like about 8-10% over a long period, 20 years if you look at that. Right? Over 1 month, 1 year, you never know. It may be high, low, something. But that's why it's good to put it in some index fund, something over a long period, so that your returns are high for 20 years, 30 years, and then as near retirement, make it safer and safer and safer. Not a lot of oscillation. Then at some point, there are things like Roth IRA, and then there is like backstore Roth IRA, things like that. That just keep these terms now. It may or may not be applicable at this point. So there are things like, okay, you are already contributing to your 401k. That's all maxed out. You are getting all the tax benefit, but you still want to save more for your retirement. So what can you do is then comes this, there is regular IRA. Anytime you put money, you take tax deduction that year and you are done, right? And of course, whatever money that accrues is tax-free until you retire. Roth IRA means you put post-tax dollars. So you already paid tax. So you take that money and put it in Roth IRA account. So you are not getting any tax benefit at all now. now. But the idea is any interest that you get, let's say you put some $5,000 in Roth IRA. After whatever 30, 40 years, when you retire, it's become $100,000, right? You take that $100,000 tax-free. Okay, so that is basically Roth IRA. All the money that you accrued is tax-free because you put in taxed money. But at some point, if you are married, you have you and your spouse both make six-figure salary, things like that. You will not be eligible to put money in Roth IRA. There are income limits as to how much you can put. Or even if you are a single person filing returns, at some point you will not be eligible to put money in Roth IRA. But there are perfectly legal, clean procedures to still get over it and then put money. So that's why it's called backdoor Roth IRA, where you would go and put money into a regular IRA, your post-tax dollars, right? People put money in IRA simply because they can take tax deduction this year. Right? But you put post-tax dollars there in regular IRA because there are no limit to how much you can put in, I mean, whether you can contribute to regular IRA or not. But what's the point of putting money into IRA if you're not going to get tax deduction, right? But once you do that, next day you are legally allowed to convert that into Roth IRA. Because there is no legal limit as to what can be converted from regular IRA to Roth IRA. Okay. That's like a loophole, but it's a IRS approved proper legal loophole. So if you have, I don't know what the number is, let's say you have $120,000 salary something and you are not allowed to put money in Roth IRA, right? But you can put money in regular IRA and convert it into Roth IRA. That's perfectly legal, right? And then that money can grow forever and you can withdraw it whenever you want, no tax liability whatsoever. So at least, like, I just want you all to be aware of these things so that when it...
I think for these guys, next year will also be like Roth 401k.
Yes.
So I think
that's
probably going to be the best option.
Yeah. So
for a young person, Roth 401k is the best.
So the Roth 401k is the, I mean, you can think of IRA as the equivalent of 401k, right? You contribute money, you take tax deduction this year, right? Roth IRA, you contribute post-tax dollars, so you don't get any tax benefit now, but any money accrued, you can take it out anytime you want, even before you retire. It's still, there is no tax liability kind of thing. Same idea is applicable now to Roth 401k. That wasn't available in Intel for a while. I think LSI was offering that
towards the end. I think
towards the end. But Intel is going to offer it, I think. So you can make all the contribution you want, just like 401k, but using post-tax dollars, right? So you don't get good tax benefits this year. But the money will go in, it can accumulate forever, and then whenever you take it out, you can pay tax. The basic idea is, if you think, I mean, the general 401k idea is you are going to earn a lot of money during your career. Then when you retire, you are not going to have any big income. And so you want tax deductions now. So you put money towards retirement. Then you save till you retire. And then when you start withdrawing, since you are no longer getting a salary from the company, the 401k will be taxed, but at a lower level because you don't have your regular salary, right? That's the theory. But I keep telling you all, you are all rich, right? You are all privileged. You all have a lot of money. So by the time when you retire, if you are still getting a lot of money from your investment, real estate, this, that, or you're doing consultancy, whatever, right? Then your income level hasn't come down that much, which means you are still going to pay a lot of tax. So if you instead pay the tax now and then save it in Roth 401k or Roth IRA, that time you can just take it off and there is no tax liability whatsoever. That's the idea.
Yeah, so you may also want to check the chat window. There's a lot of comments.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I hope people can stay on. I think this room is free, so I'll try to finish everything. But maybe instead of me taking this off, maybe Rashmi, you can tell me what the question is. There's a lot of questions. Or
no, I think they're just wishing that they had done things better. So we should have had this session.
Hey, Praveen, is there a specific question we should answer or?
No question. No, it's comment mostly, not question. Just adding
Oh,
to
okay.
what you
All
said.
right. Okay, five comments. Okay. Even was here when someone tries to contesting. Oh yeah, estate. That's true. Yeah, that's maxing out employer. Yeah. Okay, these are discussion points. So good. Okay, that's fine. So let me go back to.
And the will has that one point where the will, if will has a witness, that's even better actually than you just signing it.
But that's why I was saying getting a notary signature, right? So the notary actually serves as the witness.
Plus,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So, I mean, technically, you can just write something on the back of this napkin, sign it, keep it. It's a will. Okay, you can do it in 5 minutes. It's technically a will. But again, somebody might say, oh, I mean, David didn't write it. Somebody wrote and Sundar signed it as David something, right? If you take it to a notary and then, of course, you should not sign it. Prepare the document, take it to the notary, sign it in front of them. They will sign vouching that it's actually David who signed it. That's all they are vouching, right? Nothing about the content of the will, nothing. They're just saying you signed it. That's it. So then it becomes heavier and it will stand the legal scrutiny.
Same state of mind, so that gets proved.
Yeah. Actually, you have to write it in the will saying, in a sane state of mind, I am declaring these are my.
Yeah. So notary can say he was okay when he signed.
Yeah, exactly. So that's purpose, right? Okay, this is the one area I really wanted to touch upon. So sorry, it took a while, but there is each one of this section you can talk for like a day long seminar, right? So ESPP, I think Intel calls it just ESP. It's like employee stock plan or employee stock purchase plan, right? So that is one plan, which you all probably know about, where you go and sign up to put some money from your salary every month, every paycheck into a pot. And then once in 6 months, Intel will go and look at the low and the high prices of the stock, take the average, and then they'll still get 15% discount. Then they'll buy so many stocks and give it to you, right? So you know that. So that is ESPP. Why do we do that? Simply because you trust in Intel and they're going to give you a stock at a 15% discount compared to high and low, not the maximum, right? So in between. So the chances are, like even if the price is just stable, it hasn't oscillated much, you are getting it at a 15% discount. So if you simply turn around and sell it the next day, so you still get that 15% worth of money as your benefit, right? So I always say max it out, right? So put as much money as you want, as you can. And then if you don't want to hold on to it, you can set it up for what is called quick sale, where Intel itself will go and sell that right away at the market price and they'll give you the money, you are done, right? So that is like, you're not doing anything. You're just delaying taking your part of your salary for 6 months. Then you get your salary back with some additional return. Okay, at least do that, right? But if you believe Intel is going to do well, you may not want to sell the stock right away, right? You want to hold on to it for a longer period of time because you think it's going to appreciate. Okay, that's great. But then comes some more interesting part. So in a very similar way, you all know RSU. RSU stands for Restricted Stock Units, which is as part of your annual performance review and then long-term incentive plan. You are given a number of stock units, right? It is to keep good employees stay with the company for a long period of time. Every year, 25% of the stock keeps vesting. So if you get 100 stock, you get 25 stocks vesting in year 1, another 25 year 2, 3, 4. And in 4 years, all the 100 stocks are vested, right? And if you continue to do well, each year you are going to get 100, 200, whatever number of stocks. And after 4 years, every year you are getting 25% from the past 4 years vesting. So you'll get a chunk of stocks vesting each year that you will have access to. Right? Now, vested stock units will all be sitting in your E-Trade account. ESPP part, of course, you paid money, you bought stock, and so, okay, whatever profit you make, you need to pay money on it and you are done, right? Whereas if it's RSU, you didn't pay for it. So it's actually coming to you at $0 cost, right? So if you are getting, just to make life easier, let's say Intel stock price today is $50, then you 100 stocks vested, right? So you are effectively getting $5,000 money that's given to you. So usually Intel will automatically take whatever 30% of it and pay as tax, right? So instead of you getting 100 stock, you'll get only 66 stock or something like that. So the other part is tax you already paid. And so this 66 stock comes to your E-Trade account and it's just sitting there, right? Which is similar to the ESPP stock if you have not set up quick sale, right? So you get whatever n number of stocks that are purchased. I haven't set up quick sale. I haven't set up automatic sale of anything. So let's say I get some RSU, some ESPP, they come and then they are just sitting in my E-Trade account. Right? Imagine this is like 100 stocks. I mean, after the tax, it's all done. And I got some 100 stocks sitting in my account. Right? What people usually do is, if they haven't set up quick sale, they'll keep looking at the market. Let's say we got the stock at $50. Market is at 51, 52, something. They keep saying, yeah, if it comes to 55, I'm going to sell it and then take the money because I want to buy whatever XYZ, right? Which is great. That's fine. But need to become aware of 2-3 things here. Number one, short-term versus long-term capital gains tax, right? So if you keep any of these, not only Intel, RSU, not these. Let's say you go to the open market and buy whatever Apple stocks today, right? You think it's fantastic. It's at $80, and then you keep it for a month, and then it became $200. Hey, this is a good point. You sell it quickly, you get $20 per stock. Fantastic, but you need to pay short-term capital gains tax on that $20 profit. Okay. Which means it's like just like any other income that you received, right? Whereas if you've kept the stock for 1 year or longer, then you end up paying only a much smaller percentage of tax. It's like 15 to 20%, depending upon tax bracket and such, right? So normally what you would have paid at 30%, something like that, it becomes like 15, 20%. So if you believe in some good company, if you want to buying a stock, it's better to wait for a year before you sell it because your tax liability becomes much smaller, right? That's one. But number two, it always comes with a risk. Maybe the stock will go down, you will lose money. That's always there, right? But if you believe in Intel, the stock is going to go up continuously. Hold on to the stock for a while. So when you sell, your tax liability becomes lower, right? To begin with. So be aware of that. And along the same lines, even when you sell, often people sell the stock, they get the cash, then they just put it in the bank account and that's it, right? Banks pay 0.1% interest or something like that right now. So a better idea would be to pick some blue chip stocks, meaning really good, solid companies that's not going to go bankrupt, right? But they've grown enough, they are big enough, so they don't expect to grow phenomenally, and so they will pay a good dividend, right? If you're not really familiar with this, most of the FANG, F-A-A-N-G that you might have heard about, that's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. They're called FANG stocks, right? Those kinds of things, people buy those stocks because they think the company is going to grow really phenomenally, right? Particularly Amazon kind of company. So they want to buy it at some price, sell it later on, make a lot of money. That's the general stock market model, right? But Intel kind of companies, they've already grown so much that stock is not going to grow too much. So these kinds of companies, they pay a periodic dividend, which is interest for the stocks that you're holding. Amazon, you can buy today, keep it 10 years. Until you sell, you're not going to see a penny of profit, right? Intel, even Apple, if you buy, hold, every quarter, they'll keep paying you a little bit of money quarter after quarter. That's like a thank you appreciation that the company is paying. It's like paying interest, right? Which is really good. The point to note that there is that dividend is taxed only at 15% interest rate even if you are a multimillionaire. Okay, so so most of the rich people who are billionaires, they mostly hold a lot of dividend yielding stocks. So they may get a lot of money through dividend, and the interest rate at which they pay tax is only 15%. Right? So the idea here is, if you have, let's say, whatever $20,000 tax, cash that you have that you don't need immediately, instead of just letting it sit in a checking account earning no interest, it would be a good idea to buy some big, whatever, AT&T, some company that you think is not going to go suddenly down, right? Again, there is always a risk, it may happen, but pick some company that you don't think that will really go down, and look at what dividend that they provide. So just to give one example, I think there's one company called Wellfleet or something like that. I forgot what the name is. I put some money in there. They actually lease out real estate for hospitals. Okay, so medicine is a big growing business in US, and they pay 6-7% dividend. Okay, so instead of just the money sitting in your checking account, you keep it in that particular stock. You keep getting 7% interest. That you will be taxed only 15% rate. Right? So just where you park the money can make a big difference in what rate of return that you get and what tax you pay on that one.
Now, linking the last points with the ESPP,
yeah,
that means as employee that maybe have a stock,
yeah,
at the end of the individual quarter,
yeah,
do we also liable to get a dividend
yeah,
on our stock?
Yeah, yes, yes, of course, yeah. Any stockholder, it doesn't matter how you got the stock. So employee, you bought it in the open market, whatever, dividends, right? So this is the part I really wanted to touch upon. So how do you sell the stock, right? That makes a lot of difference again. So most people, like I said, will keep the example really simple. Let's say you got the ESPP stock at $50, right? So that's your cost basis, how much money you paid for it. It's $50, okay? What people usually do is they just keep looking at the market. They think, oh, 52, 53. If it goes to 55, I'm willing to sell it. Okay, I often do that. That's fantastic trade, right? But then you need to keep looking at the market value, see when it's coming there, and then you can just sell it at that price, right? So if you are really willing to spend the time and watch it all the time, maybe you'll hit the right point, you can sell. That's great, but that's the simplest thing to do, and that's most time and energy consuming. Don't do that, right? So then there is this limit order notion, which many of you may know. So if you are willing to sell it at 55, you can enter an order saying, sell all my stocks or 100 of my stock at 55 whenever it hits 55, right? Of course, if you do that, the day it hits 55, maybe it would go up to 57, 60. You lost that opportunity to make a little bit more money. But for this example, simply think you are happy selling it at 50, right? 55. So enter a limit order, then it will get sold whenever it hits 50. So it's really good because you may not be checking the price every day. So one day if it goes to 55 and then comes back, for a few minutes, this would have been automatically taken care of, right? So you should at least do limit order and not sell it at this time. But at some point, suddenly if it's overnight, if it's become 60, you will still get 60, right? But it usually slowly goes up. So when it hits the trigger, it immediately gets sold. So you usually get only 55. That's what happens 99% of the time. Unless you set it up for a long period, you can set it for one day, you can set it good till cancel. So it will be active for 90 days whenever it becomes that price. Sometime it will be like whatever, 52, 53. And then suddenly overnight, there is some big thing and then it becomes 60. The next day morning when it opens, it's already at 60. Then you will get 60, right? So that it may happen. But what I wanted to really talk about is there are also these notions of options trading, right? This is a little bit more complex. It's not for everybody. So I intentionally copied the text, the disclaimer that is actually posted in the E-Trade directory, right? So option transactions are complex. They do carry a high degree of risk. They're not intended for everybody. It's for sophisticated investors, not suited for everyone, blah, blah, blah. So keep that in mind. But you can still use this to make some extra money out of your ESPP and RSU stocks. Okay. There is a lot of detail in options trading, but I'll just touch upon the main thing that you should start with. You can immediately use that, put that to good use, and then you can keep expanding. There is a lot more to do. So first one, you'll hear two terms. One is called a call. Another one is called put. Okay. So what is a call and what is a put? Call is a contract that you are selling to someone else, saying, I will sell you Intel stock. It's not only for Intel, but just to keep things really simple, let's start with Intel. Right? I'll sell this stock at this price for you anytime from now till whatever. Okay, some time window. Time window would be 1 week, could be 3 months, 1 year, whatever, right? So doing this is called opening an option, right? You are basically writing an options contract. So I can sell David a contract where I am saying I'll sell you Intel stock at $55 because I am willing to sell it at $55 anyway, right? So I'll sell you Intel stock at $55 for 1 week, okay? And these contracts are always written as a bundle of 100 stocks. They don't sell like 2 stocks, 3 stocks, nothing. One contract is just to make life easier. It's 100 stocks, okay? So I am telling David, I'll sell 100 Intel stocks to you at what is called the strike price of $55 for any time in the next 1 week, okay? So for the privilege of being able to buy the Intel stock at $55, you are willing to pay me a fee, okay? So that fee we'll get into a lot of detail, but let's say it's like $2 a stock, okay? So as soon as I write this contract and give it to you and you buy it, right? You immediately give me $200, okay? Again, it's for 100 stocks. I am giving the privilege of him buying it at 55. So he's buying the option. So he's going to give me $2. That's called the premium, right? $2 per stock. Since there are 100 stocks, he has to give me $200 right away, right? Why would he do that? Because David thinks the stock is going to go to $60 in the next 1 week, right? This way, he doesn't have to really put, the stock is at 50 now, right? So if he has to buy 100 stocks, he has to pay $5,000 to buy them. He doesn't want to spend $5,000, but he thinks it's going to go to 60, right? So he wants to cash in on that. So he's willing to pay $2. So he'll give me $200. I keep the $200. Whatever happens, right? So I made that money. And then 1 week, you and I keep watching the market. Let's say it goes to 55, right? At that point, and only at that point, if it becomes 54.99, the option doesn't happen. You technically have the option of still buying it from me for $55, but why would you do that when you can buy it from the open market for less, right? So it's worthless option. When it hits 55, that's the strike price. Then it gets triggered. So now it's active, right? Then, of course, there is always a commission. So there is always this funny joke saying in a Wild West, and there is a gold rush. People think there's gold, everybody is running there to dig it up, right? A clever businessman sells shovels, okay? So Fidelity or E-Trade is going to make commission on every one of these transactions, right? So you should take the transaction money into account. So it will be maybe $5, something like that, right? So if the price goes to, let's say, $56, right, you are going to still not make money because
it's 100.
Because you already paid $2 for me, right? So if it technically becomes more than 57, right, then you can basically exercise that option, right? Then basically I lose the 100 stocks to David. He'll buy it, he'll sell it in the open market, he'll make money, whatever. But the only thing that you should remember is you had 100 stocks with you. You always thought you are willing to let it go at $55. So you are writing a contract saying, hey, if you can give me $2 per stock, I'm willing to give you this right to buy the stock in the next 1 week, right? David is willing to pay me $200. So I take the $200 and keep it. So if the price never hits that level, well, okay, I just keep the $200. David thought it's going to go up. It didn't go up. So that's it, the end, right? I still have the stock. I haven't lost it. Nothing happened to it. But I got $200, right? You can potentially keep doing this endlessly. Okay? So every week you can keep writing this contract. If David or Arun or Prashni is willing to pay me $2 per thing, I keep getting 200, 200, 200. If you have 1,000 stocks in your E-Trade account, you can write 10 contracts, right? I'm willing to sell 1,000 stocks to somebody, so I'll get $2,000, right? Still, I'm not losing my stock. I still have the stock with me. Okay.
But I don't get what is the. I'm trying to really picture it very well.
Yeah.
Why will I want to do that?
No, because
I don't have the money now.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm still trading on the stock in your accounts.
Yeah.
That means that, for instance, from the example you gave, let's assume that it goes to 60.
Yes.
Therefore, I will still not pay you any additional money.
No, actually,
but I will get the profits from you.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Correct. So when the price really becomes this thing, I mean, this is all computerized in like second by second, these are traded, right? So you would, the stock market calls it in the money. The term in the money means there is profit to be made, right? So when it becomes 60, you don't need to write a check for 60 multiplied by 100, $6,000 and nothing, right? You just say, okay, I'm executing my option. The E-Trade will just give you that whatever $5 profit because you bought it at 55, you are selling it at 60. So 5 multiplied by 100, so you get $500. You paid me only 200, right? So you got 300. And I basically lost that potential to make that $300 by getting the $200 from you ahead of time, right? So that is options trading. When I already have the stock with me, like in case of this ESPP and RSU, that is called a covered call. Okay, meaning it's already covered. I have the stock, so I don't have to go buy it from the open market and give it to you, right? Covered calls are fairly safe. So that's why I'm like bringing it and then talking about it in these many steps and details, right? So a covered call is an option, is a call option. That's what it's called. A call option is a contract that gives the buyer, think David, the legal right, but not the obligation. So you don't need to buy it. Even if it becomes 60, for some reason you say, I don't want to buy it. Okay, fine. So you are not obligated to buy it. But the legal right to buy 100 shares of the Intel stock at $55 price anytime before that 1 week period, right? I put everything as one example just to make things easier to understand. But it's totally open. So it could be any stock. It could be any time period. So depending upon what time period we are talking about, the premium that you are going to get will vary, right? So if you are saying 55 but only till tomorrow, you can write contracts like that. People don't think it's going to go up $5 in 1 day, right? So the contract won't even sell. David is the market, right? So they won't buy it from me. So you can write a contract, but nobody will buy it. Or maybe instead of $2, he's willing to pay me 2 cents, right? If it's 2 cents, okay, I get $20. Still good, but the commission is going to be $5 gone, so I get $15. But it's risk only for 1 day, right? So it's good. But if you are willing to sign a contract for 3 months, Maybe David will be willing to pay me $5 premium, right? So I get $500 because David thinks, 3 months, sometime it's going to become $70. Okay? So it's good, right? So when you really go in, there is a thing called options chain. So it's a huge matrix. So it will give you the price the market is willing to pay for a particular strike price for a particular time period, right? So instead of 55, if I'm willing to sell it for 52, the probability of it hitting 52 is very high, right? So people will pay more premium because they think, I'm really going to cash this one out, right? If I am willing to sell it only for 60, okay, it's not going to go up. But in case if it happens, I want the option to buy. So David may be willing to buy the strike price 60, but instead of $2, he'll pay me 50 cents or something, right? So it basically all over the place. So what is the current price? What is the strike price you are willing to let the stock go? And what is the duration for which you are willing to let it go? The longer the duration, the more premium you may get, right? Again, it also depends on the stock. Intel stock is highly watched. It's like in every radar in the world because it's part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? I have a cousin in Pittsburgh. His company is called ANSYS. Company is doing phenomenally well, but their stock is not traded that much, right? So you can do the same thing. He has RSUs, he does same options, call, everything. But you can't sell options for 2 days, 1 week, nothing. The only options he has is 1 month, 2 months, 3 months kind of thing, because it's not traded that much. So you can also write the thing for either just 100, 200, 10,000, whatever. And depending upon how many that you are putting out in the market, again, it may sell, may not sell. And then you can again choose to say, I'm putting out 500. I want it all sold at once. So if the David market is willing to buy my 5 contracts together in one thing, only then I want to sell. Why would I want to do that? Because it's my fee will reduce, right? It's like one transaction kind of thing. Again, there are different companies. I think the E-Trade fee is fixed. It's like $5 or $7 or something. There are other companies that will charge you some $1 plus a penny per stock. So for one contract of 100, they'll charge 100 pennies, which is $1. So you can write 10 contracts, they'll charge you $10. So plus 1. So it's only like $10, $11 kind of thing. So there are all these combinations. So it can get really, really complex. So this is the call option, right? If the seller of the call option, in this case me, right, I also own the underlying security meaning stock, right? Meaning I own the Intel stock. That's why I'm telling you all this, because we get some stock in because of RSU or ESPP something. The option is considered covered because I have the stock already with me, right? You can play the same game without really having the stock, right? In that case, if David says, okay, it's hit to 60, I want the stock now. I don't have the stock, so I need to go to the market, pay $6,000 and then give him the stock, right? He's going to pay me 55, so I'll get $5,500 back from him, right? But I lost $300, whatever, right? That's the thing. That's called a naked call because you don't really have the stock with you. A covered call is where you already have the stock with you. Right? The point I'm trying to make is, there is a lot more to this, right? But in a simple way, you got the Intel stock at 50, you think you are going to sell it at 55. So a simplest option is you keep looking at the market, see when it hits 55 and then you sell it. Don't do that. A better option is at least put a limit order saying when it hits 55, automatically sell it. So you don't have to watch it whenever it hits. Great. A much better option is, of course, this requires actually enabling a privilege. So you need to apply for options trading privilege. E-Trade will evaluate you. Are you an experienced person? They may even say no, right? Right? But be aware of it. So once you get that, then you can say, I have 300 stocks. I'm going to put 2 contracts, 3 contracts out for whatever we think. Next 3 weeks, it's not going to go anywhere. So $55 strike price, I'm willing to let it go. So put 3 contracts at 55. David is willing to pay me $2 premium. So 300 multiplied by 2, I get $600 for doing nothing, right? And if it never hits 55, fine. I still have my stock and I can still go and sell it in the open market, do whatever I want. After 1 week, 3 weeks, whatever, I can redo this. But let's say at some point, even at 55, it sold, went away. The effective price you got is 55 plus $2 you already got. So you sold it at 57, right? So you originally said you are willing to let it go at 55, but with the premium added, you actually sold it at 57, right? And let's say it didn't sell. So you still have that 200. So you write the contract again. That time, let's say it sold. You're still, the strike price is 55, but you effectively sold it at 59, right? So, I mean, it's the same stock. You're not doing anything. You are willing to let it go, and then you can keep doing this, right? And just to give you a taste of what's going on, there are like all kinds of combinations to this one. So if you don't have the stock, it becomes a naked call, right? Because you need to go and buy it from the market and sell it to them. If you really go and look at the E-Trade account, you will see something like this, right? It can look really hairy. That's why I don't want to get into all the details now. But just to familiarize with you with some of these, wherever you see this blue color thing, that means it's in the money. Meaning, if that gets executed, you're going to make money, kind of thing, right? Wherever it's white, you are not making money. Just keep that in mind. I mean, there are a lot of combinations. We don't need to go into that. That's what it means, right? And then look at the dates here. So this one says April 5. Right? This one says April 12. This one says April 18. So you can slide this. Right now it's on March 29th or something like that, or 1 week before, right? So the prices that you see here, it's all for that. So the bid means somebody is willing to pay. I mean, I said David is willing to pay me $2, right? Mm-hmm. So the bid is David is willing to pay me $2. That's what he's ready. The ask, I want $3. Right? So that is bid and ask. Okay. So you can write a contract. David is willing to pay only $2, so I can put it out. He may not buy it. Wait. But maybe after a while, Arun comes in and says, "Oh, $3. I'm willing to pay $3 because it's going to go to 60. David was trying to make $300 profit. I'm willing to take 200, right? So the market is very competitive. So wherever there is money to be made, somebody will buy it, and so it works. I mean, imagine like hedge funds, things like that. They actually play this at like 1 penny, 2 penny level, right? They'll buy it from you at like 1 penny profit, sell it here. Like they'll keep doing this 10,000 times a day. So in the end, they make a lot more money. It's called arbitrage, right? So any little variation that you can get. So the thing is, if you are, so the covered call is the easy thing to understand, right? So keep that in mind. But if you really become comfortable later on, or what the market does is, people don't really have the stock, right? So they'll actually write this. So I will write what is called a call option. I'll sell you a call option saying, David, I'll sell that to you for $2 premium, 55 strike price, right? So you are willing to pay me the money. So I take the money. I'm hoping it will never get executed because I don't have the stock with me, right? So I get $200. But if it really becomes 60, I have to buy it from the open market for 60 and give it to you. So I'm going to end up losing $300, right? So what people do is, I'll go and sell another contract with J saying, I'm willing to buy it from you for $58. Okay?
It's getting more interesting.
Is it gambling?
It's not gambling, it's a business.
Yeah.
It's not gambling.
So that is called a put option, PUT. Okay. A put option is promising to buy the stock at some price from the market, right? So I can say.
But J no collects premium.
Yes. Yeah.
He will not.
No, he will. He
Okay.
will. Yeah, he will. So what happens is, I am getting $200 from you, right? Notice that the price is like further away, right? So the probability of it hitting 58 is lower.
Yeah.
And so the premium that I need to pay would be a little less. So I'll pay only $100 to him and get that, okay? Get that contract from him. So I basically what it is it's a legal right for me to buy the stock from J at 58 for the same period, okay? But for that right, I am paying him only $100, not $200, because 58, J thinks it's not going to go to 58, so I'm willing to take $100, because it's a bigger range, right? So if it really gets exercised, David says, hey, it went up, I need the stock. Instead of going out and buying it from the market for 60, Jay committed to me to sell it for 58. So I'm going to get it just from him, right? Jay would have, of course, got another contract with you at 59 or something like that. So it can just keep going all over.
It's like a risk response.
Yeah, so all this can work out. So if you get really comfortable, these are called spreads, right? So the spread is this 57, 58. So you are willing to sell it at a strike price of 55, but you want to limit your loss. So you're going to put a stop to the limit, how much you can lose by getting another contract. Of course, when you do that, you are losing some of the money I got from David. I need to give it to Jay, but my risk becomes.
So Sundar, the volume of this kind of option, is it very high on daily basis?
Extremely high. Yeah, it's high. It depends on, again, what stock. If you look at Apple, Intel, Tesla, something where there is a lot of volatility, be extremely high, right? And of course, market is like minute by minute, hour by hour. That's how they compute the probability and then try to tell you, if you're willing to wait till April 18th, I'll give you this much premium, that kind of thing, right? And then if we can keep talking about it endlessly. So there are things like the call to put options ratio, meaning for how many calls, how many puts are traded overall in the market. If it's really high, really low, if like everybody wants to sell or everybody wants to buy, depending upon that, companies figure out, or like traders figure out, this stock is not doing well because the confidence level is low. Everybody is trying to get rid of it, or they are trying to put a stop at that point, right? And there are people who work on like contrarian indicator, meaning if everybody is trying to sell, maybe there is herd mentality, meaning everybody tries to do what the market is doing. So they're getting too worried. So I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to make money, or vice versa, right? So that it keeps going on. And then if you really look into it, look at that. There is like calls only, put only. Then there are buy rights, married puts, vertical spreads, calendar spreads. So these are all, there's butterfly, iron butterfly, condor. All these are all different ways of basic like buy sell, right? So you want like large spread, short spread. You work on like really small variations over and over and over. You want to make money, or you want to work on large premium that works only rarely. You are willing to wait for a year to patiently, all that kind of option. What I want you to take away is consider that again, everything has risks, right? So the risk here is maybe Intel will do phenomenally well. It would go to 65, and then you've given away all your profit to David because you sold it at 55. But the point here is you have the stock, you are willing to sell it for 55. Why can't you write a contract? And so you get $2. Effectively, you are selling it at 57.
Sometimes better than limit setting.
Much better than limit setting, right?
Far.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? So and if it doesn't sell, you can rewrite the contract again until it sells, because you want to sell it at 55 anyway.
But
So
I
keep on
think
doing
the
it.
platform will be collecting their own transaction charges
I
if
mean,
you rewrite.
you are correct, but usually it's like $5 something. So I'm going to get 300 from you. I don't mind giving $5.
So even if you select 10 stocks, it's $5. Even if you sell it 100 stocks, it's
You make a lot.
Yeah.
the commissions are the same, right?
Yeah. Again, there are every combination you can imagine. If you go to E-Trade, the commission is fixed. I think it's like
$60 or something.
$5.95 or $6.95 or something. There are other brokers. There's one called Interactive Broker, something. So they charge 1 penny per stock. So there is a fixed fee of some $1 or something, and then per stock they take 1 penny. So if you write 10 contracts, it's 1,000 stocks, right? So they take $10. So it really depends on which trader. Does that overall make sense, right?
It's not an advertisement, but just a point that there's an app called Topical, which
Say that again.
There's an app called Topical.
Robinhood. Okay.
Access all the options for doing stocks.
Okay.
It's no brokerage.
Will they actually allow you to trade? Or?
Yes, they allow us to trade.
Okay.
The option is free. They don't charge. I think even buying and selling stocks also.
You mean Robinhood? So which
some app called Robinhood.
You still pay charges on Robinhood?
No, they don't.
I think they do.
No,
Because I know Robinhood. You know Robinhood also trade crypto.
yes.
So, yeah, they do charge. It's only and you cannot even self-transfer from their home platforms another way. You can only cash out.
What do you mean by transfer?
For instance, maybe I have a stock here. I want to transfer it to maybe E-Trade.
Oh, okay.
You can only cash it out. You cannot. They don't do inter-transactions.
Oh.
Based on these two things I know about Robinhood.
By the way, even in E-Trade, you are not allowed to do options trading on the standard E-Trade account where the ESPP and RSU all get dumped. Right? You need to set up for free something called the individual brokerage account, and then you just call them and they'll transfer any vested stock into the brokerage account. Then you can do these kinds of things. Right? Whereas if you want to just simply sell limit order, you can do it on the regular ESPP account itself. Options trading is not allowed in that. They want to keep that kind of separate.
I think where Robinhood makes their money is their fill. I think the term called fill. When you're actually transacting the shares, the fill is not as good as it is on E-Trade.
Yeah, it's very, very minimal.
Yeah. So in fact, I was comparing something. So they make the premium that's given to you. They give the chain. They may shave 1 penny here, 1 penny here, something. So they may make money.
It's still good, but it's just a fill ratio, I guess, is called or something like that. It's a little bit. Is not as tight as you can get to E-Trade.
Right. So this is the last slide. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things, right? So again, if you don't have a lot of stock right now, that's all great. Okay. Yeah. I'm almost done. So so if you instead of let's say you have Intel stock or whatever stock you bought some Apple stock, right, at $100. Now it became $200 or something. You want to donate $200 to some charity that you like, right? So if you sell that Apple stock, you made a profit of $100, right? So you pay, depending upon how long you held the stock, either short-term or long-term capital gains on that $100. Then, so it becomes, let's say it was a short-term capital gain, so you lose $30 on that or something. So you effectively got $70, right? So you can donate $200 to your favorite charity, but you have to add that tax $30 on top of it to bring it back to 200, right? Instead of that, you can donate it as a stock itself, as an appreciated stock. So a lot of organizations accept the stock as is. So of course the risk there is it may take 4 days for it to actually get transferred, and then they sell it, and then they tell you what money they got. During that period, suddenly, if it became $100 again, you will get tax deduction only for $100, right? But presuming, ignoring that probability, if you give them this Apple stock at $200, they'll tell you, oh, we sold it in the market, you get $200 this thing. You can get $200 deduction, but the amount of tax you paid becomes less, right? So if you sell it, you pay tax, and then you donate the money. So you effectively can donate only $170 if you paid $30 tax or something. But if you pay the whole thing, you get $200 write-off, right? So it's better to donate appreciated stocks rather than selling the stock and giving the cash.
It's the key, appreciate stock.
Yes, yeah, exactly, right? Appreciated stock. So I should put like appreciated there. And then there are a lot of research in philanthropy itself. So previously, people used to give like $50 to some church, $50 to whatever, NPR, NRA, $50 to some whatever else, right? Some Doctors Without Borders, something. The new idea said, don't do that. If you really believe in one cause, then donate all the money you can to that one cause. That way, you'll have better impact than giving little money here, there, right? So this has got nothing to do with Intel specifically, but the point here is it becomes easier for you to get the Intel match, right? So Intel till last year, it used to say we'll match up to $10,000 per employee, but only $5,000 to any charity that you choose, and the other $5,000 has to be some sort of an educational institution thing. Starting this year, up to $10,000, any charity that you want, right? So if you donate like a car, boat, something, the charity will tell you how much money they got from it, but Intel won't match it. Right? But if you donate money or stock, any stock, not Intel stock account, you get a dollar value, and Intel is willing to match that directly, right? So if you just donate all the money that you want to donate in a year to one charity, it becomes easier. You just get one letter from them, and then file a match request with Intel, and then Intel will just write a check. So remember to do that. I always do that. It effectively doubles my contribution to the charity. Right? And this is the last point, saying I volunteer for a couple of organizations. There is Habitat for Humanity and credit union, things like that. Even if you help in some soccer coaching, some anything, right? Wherever you volunteer, you should keep entering it, because Intel likes to keep track of how many hours employees volunteer in the community, because we want to be invested in the community, be part of the community, which is a good thing. Then Intel pays $10 for every hour you volunteer. So I go on these house visits. I spend mentoring people in the Habitat thing, all that. So if I say I spent 20 hours this month, Intel sends the check to them for $20, and this is outside that $10,000 limit. Right? So whatever you are volunteering, remember to enter that in the Intel system, right? And if you're not volunteering, you can go look for it, because there are list of organizations where you can volunteer, and it's already kind of pre-set up. If you go and volunteer for a brand new organization that's not on the Intel system, first time you need to go and get some paperwork from the organization to show that it's a IRS registered 501c organization, things like that. But if you are just starting out, you want to volunteer something, you can look at that. It's not a complicated process. I did that for the local Lehigh Valley Habitat chapter. They just sent me the letter, gave it to them, it got added. Now, any of you want to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity in Lehigh Valley chapter, it's available as one of the options. But if you don't want to even do that, you can choose one that's already set up, and it becomes easier. You just go and enter every month how many hours you work. Right? So each one of this, even this, we are not getting the money, but this is all part of our total rewards, right? So these are ways to maximize our income.
You said when you donate for charity, right? You have some tax deductions like this.
Of course.
When you file the taxes.
Yes. I mean, look, whatever you donate, if you donate $1,000 to some charity, you just put it in your tax return. So basically, your total income, whatever it is, it gets reduced by $1,000. Right? And then you pay tax only for the rest of it. Yeah. It could be $50, $100, whatever dollar, right? Okay, that was my last slide. Anyone has any?
I think you deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it really. Is there any got to drop? Okay, yeah. All right, so that's the end of the presentation. So I think we have it recorded. I'll save it, get the file, and then we'll put it out on Intel Video Portal or